Once upon a time there was a sweet girl named Karen. She lived a very simple life. She did not have many toys or fancy clothes. Her world was small, but her heart was full of dreams. Karen often looked at the beautiful things in shop windows. She imagined what it would be like to wear a silk dress or shiny shoes. Her own shoes were old and worn. They had carried her through many long days, but she never complained. She was a good girl with a kind spirit. She just wished for a little bit of beauty in her life. One day, a wonderful thing happened. A kind old shoemaker saw Karen looking at his shop. He noticed her worn-out shoes. His heart felt for her. He decided to give her a special gift. He went into his workshop and came back with a small box. Inside was a pair of the most beautiful red shoes Karen had ever seen. They were made of shiny leather. They had tiny, perfect stitches. They looked like they were made for a princess. Karen's eyes grew wide with wonder. She could not believe they were for her. The shoemaker smiled and told her to try them on. The moment Karen slipped her feet into the red shoes, she felt a spark. It was like a little bit of magic. The shoes fit her perfectly. They hugged her feet like they were made just for her. She stood up and looked down at them. They gleamed in the sunlight. They made her feel so special and so important. It was a feeling she had never known before. She thanked the kind shoemaker with all her heart. She promised to take very good care of them. This was more than just a pair of shoes. It was a dream come true. Karen ran home, her feet feeling light and happy. She couldn't stop looking at her new red shoes. They were the most precious things she had ever owned. She polished them every single day. She wanted them to always look their best. The shoes became her greatest treasure. They represented a new beginning for her. They were a symbol of hope and beauty. She felt that with these shoes, her life was going to change. She believed that they would bring her all the happiness she had ever wished for. Little did she know, this beautiful gift held a powerful lesson for her. The red shoes changed everything for Karen. When she wore them, she felt like a different person. She stood up a little taller. She walked with a little more confidence. The shoes made her feel seen for the first time. Before, she was just a poor girl that nobody noticed. But now, people looked at her. They saw the bright, shiny red on her feet. Their eyes would follow her as she walked down the street. This new attention felt amazing. It was like a warm, sunny day after a long, cold winter. She loved the feeling of being noticed and admired. People in the village started talking about Karen's shoes. "Have you seen her red shoes?" they would whisper. Some people were happy for her. They thought she deserved something nice. But others were a little jealous. They wondered how a poor girl could have such fine things. Karen heard their whispers. She saw their curious glances. Instead of making her feel shy, it made her feel proud. She loved being the center of attention. The shoes were her ticket to a world where she mattered. She felt like she finally belonged somewhere special. The shoes made her feel powerful. It was a strange and exciting feeling. With every step she took, the red leather seemed to glow. It was like they had their own special light. Karen started to believe that the shoes were magical. She thought they were the source of her newfound happiness. She began to think that the shoes were what made her special, not her own kind heart. She spent hours just looking at them, polishing them until they shone like mirrors. Her world started to shrink until it was just her and her beautiful red shoes. This new feeling was so intoxicating. It was like drinking a sweet, bubbly soda for the very first time. Karen wanted more of it. She started looking for more opportunities to show off her shoes. She would walk through the market even when she didn't need anything. She would find reasons to pass by the town square. She wanted everyone to see her. She wanted everyone to admire her. The simple joy of having the shoes was turning into a need for constant approval. The red shoes were not just on her feet anymore. They were starting to take over her thoughts and her heart. Karen's love for her red shoes started to change her. She became so focused on them that she forgot about other important things. One Sunday she was going to church. This was a place where she had always felt peaceful and connected. But this time, all she could think about were her shoes. She wanted everyone in the church to see how they sparkled. She chose a seat where she thought the most people would notice her feet. She wasn't thinking about the songs or the prayers. She was only thinking about the compliments she might get after the service. This distraction caused her to miss important moments. One day her dear old friend was very sick. Her friend's mother asked Karen to come and sit with her. This was something Karen would have normally done without a second thought. But that day, it was raining. The streets were muddy. Karen looked at her beautiful red shoes. She couldn't bear the thought of getting them dirty, so she made an excuse. She said she was too busy. She stayed home, polishing her shoes, while her friend lay sick in bed. She told herself she would visit tomorrow when the weather was better. Her priorities were shifting in a way she didn't even realize. She started to value the appearance of things more than the feelings of people. She was invited to a party for a little girl in the village. It was a simple gathering in a garden, but Karen wanted to wear her red shoes. She spent the whole time walking around the edges of the garden. She was afraid to play games on the grass. She didn't want to get a single scuff mark on her precious shoes. She missed out on the laughter and the fun. She was at the party, but she wasn't really there at all. This pattern continued. She would choose her shoes over her friends. She would choose showing off over being present. The red shoes were like a beautiful veil. They covered her eyes and made it hard for her to see what truly mattered. She thought the shoes were making her happy, but really, they were isolating her. They were building a wall between her and the people who cared about her. The shine of the leather was blinding her to the warmth of real human connection. Her heart was becoming as hard and shiny as the shoes she adored so much. The day Karen's life changed forever started like any other. There was a big town festival, everyone was excited, there was music and dancing in the streets. Karen knew this was the perfect chance to show off her red shoes. She put them on and felt that familiar rush of pride. She walked to the town square, making sure her every step was graceful. She wanted everyone to see how beautifully she could move in her wonderful shoes. She felt like the star of the show. She believed that everyone was there just to see her and her amazing shoes. As the music played, Karen started to dance. At first it was wonderful. She twirled and spun, and her red shoes flashed in the sunlight. People stopped to watch her. They clapped and cheered. Karen's heart swelled with joy. This was everything she had ever wanted. She was beautiful. She was admired. She was the center of attention. She danced and danced, lost in her own world of vanity. She didn't notice when the music changed. She didn't notice when people started to look at her with concern instead of admiration. Then something strange happened. Karen started to feel tired. She wanted to stop dancing and rest for a moment, but her feet wouldn't let her. The red shoes kept moving. They tapped and twirled to a beat of their own. A feeling of panic started to creep into her heart. She tried to sit down, but the shoes pulled her back up. They were controlling her now. She was no longer the one dancing. The shoes were dancing her. Her beautiful dream was turning into a scary nightmare. She called out for help, but her voice was lost in the festival noise. The shoes danced her out of the town square and into the streets. They danced her past her own home. They danced her toward the dark woods at the edge of the village. Karen was terrified. The shoes that had brought her so much joy were now causing her so much pain. They were no longer a beautiful accessory. They were a curse. She had wanted them to make her special, and they had, but in the most terrible way possible. She was trapped by the very thing she had loved the most. The enchanted red shoes carried Karen away from everything she knew. They danced her through day and night without ever stopping. Her feet ached and her body grew weak. She danced through muddy fields and thorny bushes. Her simple dress became torn and tattered. The beautiful shoes, however, remained as shiny and perfect as ever. They never got dirty or scuffed. They just kept moving, forcing her to dance on and on. The world became a blur of spinning trees and endless roads. All she knew was the constant motion and the growing pain. As she danced, Karen had a lot of time to think. She remembered all the times she had chosen her shoes over her friends. She thought about the sick friend she had failed to visit. She remembered missing the fun at the party because she was worried about scuffs. She saw how her pride had made her selfish and unkind. The joy she had felt when people admired her shoes seemed so foolish now. She would give anything to go back. She would trade all the compliments in the world for just one moment of rest, for one kind word from a friend. Her regret was a heavy weight in her heart. It was even heavier than the exhaustion in her body. She cried as she danced, but her tears were swept away by the wind. She realized that she had been so wrong. She had thought that beautiful things could make her happy. She had believed that being admired was the same as being loved. But now, she was all alone, trapped in a nightmare created by her own vanity. The shoes were a reflection of her own selfish heart. They were as relentless and unforgiving as her own pride had been. One day, the shoes danced her past a lonely church in the woods. Through an open door, she saw an executioner standing with his sharp axe. In her desperation, Karen had a terrifying idea. She knew it was the only way to be free. She pleaded with the man. "Please," she cried, "cut off my feet. I cannot stop dancing." The executioner looked at her with pity. He saw the agony in her eyes. He understood that she was truly desperate. It was a terrible choice, but it was the only one she had left to escape the curse of the red shoes. The executioner, with a heavy heart, did as Karen asked. He swung his axe, and in one swift motion, her feet were gone. The red shoes, still on the severed feet, did not stop. They danced away, across the fields and into the deep forest, until they disappeared from sight. Karen fell to the ground, free from the endless dance, but forever changed. The pain was immense, but it was matched by a strange sense of relief. The curse was broken. She was no longer a puppet of her own vanity. The price for her freedom was incredibly high, but she had paid it. The kind executioner made her a pair of simple wooden feet. He gave her crutches to help her walk. Her life was now much harder than it had ever been before she got the red shoes. She had to learn to walk all over again. Every step was a struggle. People in the villages she passed through sometimes stared at her, but this time, their stares were not of admiration or envy. They were stares of pity or curiosity. Karen no longer cared what people thought. She had learned a harsh lesson about the true cost of pride. She found work at a small church, cleaning and helping the parson. It was humble work. She spent her days scrubbing floors and dusting pews. No one paid her any special attention. She was just a quiet, hard-working girl with wooden feet. But in this quiet, simple life, Karen started to find something she had lost. She found peace. She was no longer trying to impress anyone. She was just trying to be good and kind. She prayed every day not for beautiful things but for a humble and forgiving heart. Her journey was a painful one, but it was also a journey of healing. She learned that her worth was not in what she wore or what she owned. Her true worth was in her actions and the kindness she showed to others. She had once wished for a life of beauty and admiration. Now, she understood that true beauty comes from within. It comes from humility, from serving others, and from finding contentment in a simple life. The memory of the red shoes was a constant, painful reminder of the person she used to be, and a guide for the person she wanted to become. Living and working at the church, Karen began a new chapter of her life. It was a quiet and reflective time. Her days were filled with simple, meaningful tasks. She would tend to the church garden, her hands in the cool earth. She would listen to the stories of the people who came to pray. She started to see the world differently. Before, she had only looked for things that would make her look good. Now, she looked for ways to make others feel good. She found joy in small acts of kindness, like offering a warm drink to a tired traveler or listening to an old woman's worries. She never spoke of her past or the terrible dance of the red shoes. It was a secret she carried in her heart. But the memory shaped her every action. When she saw a young girl looking longingly at a pretty ribbon, she would smile gently. She understood that desire, but she also knew its danger. She learned to be grateful for what she had, instead of always wanting more. Her wooden feet were a constant reminder of her mistake, but they were also a symbol of her second chance. They kept her grounded, literally and figuratively. One Sunday, as she sat quietly at the back of the church, she felt a change within her. The organ music filled the room, and the choir began to sing. In the past, she would have been looking around, checking to see who was noticing her. But now, she closed her eyes and just listened. The music washed over her. It wasn't just sound, it was a feeling of pure grace. For the first time since her ordeal, she felt a sense of true, deep joy. It was a quiet, gentle happiness that had nothing to do with shoes or dresses or being admired. In that moment, an angel appeared before her, bathed in a soft, warm light. The angel was not there to judge her. The angel was there because Karen's heart had finally found its way back. She had let go of her pride. She had replaced vanity with humility. She had learned to love others more than she loved pretty things. The angel smiled at her, a smile of forgiveness and peace. Karen felt a wave of warmth spread through her soul. She knew that she had finally been forgiven, not just by heaven, but by herself. The angel's visit filled Karen's heart with a profound sense of peace. It was a peace that settled deep within her soul, calming all the old anxieties and regrets. She realized that all the running and dancing had been a desperate search for something she thought was outside of herself. She had believed happiness was a prize to be won, a thing to be owned. Now, she understood that peace was not something you find, but something you cultivate. It grows in the quiet garden of a humble heart. Her life was simple, but it was finally her own. She continued her work at the church, but with a new lightness in her spirit. The daily chores no longer felt like work. They were acts of devotion. Polishing the pews was a way to make a welcoming space for others. Tending the garden was a way to create beauty for everyone to enjoy, not just for herself. She found immense satisfaction in these simple, selfless acts. She learned that true fulfillment comes from contributing to the well-being of others. It was a quiet, steady joy, unlike the frantic, fleeting excitement the red shoes had given her. The villagers came to know her as the kind woman from the church. They didn't know her story, but they felt her gentle spirit. Children would bring her wildflowers and she would place them in a vase by the altar. She would read stories to them, tales of courage and kindness, not of princesses and riches. She taught them, through her own quiet example, that what you do is far more important than what you have. Her life became a silent sermon on the beauty of a simple, good life. Karen's soul was so filled with sunlight and peace that it finally burst. One morning as she sat in her usual spot in the church, her heart overflowed with gratitude. The sunlight streamed through the stained glass window, surrounding her in a rainbow of colors. She closed her eyes and her spirit gently lifted from her body. It floated on the sunbeams like a soap bubble, up into the heavens. She had found her redemption not by getting back what she had lost, but by embracing what she had become. Her journey was complete. Karen's story is a powerful reminder for all of us. It's a tale that speaks to that little part in each of us that is drawn to shiny, beautiful things. We all know that feeling. We see a beautiful dress, a fancy car, or a perfect house, and we think, if I had that, I would be happy. We believe that these external things can fix what we feel on the inside, but Karen's journey shows us the danger of that kind of thinking. It shows us that when we focus too much on the outside, we can lose touch with what is truly valuable on the inside. The red shoes are a symbol of vanity. They represent the desire to be seen and admired above all else. At first, they seemed like a wonderful gift. They made Karen feel special and important, but that feeling was shallow. It depended on the opinions of others. When her pride took over, the shoes became a curse. They forced her to dance until she lost everything. This teaches us that chasing after admiration and status is an endless, exhausting dance. It can lead us away from our true selves and from the people who genuinely care for us. The real transformation for Karen happened when she lost everything. It was in her moment of greatest suffering that she found the path to redemption. By choosing to have her feet removed, she chose to let go of her pride. She chose humility and a simple life. This is such a powerful part of the story. It shows that sometimes we have to let go of the things we think we want the most in order to find what we truly need. True strength isn't about having the best of everything. It's about having the courage to be humble and to start over. In the end, Karen found true happiness. It wasn't in a pair of shiny shoes, but in the peace of a quiet heart. She found it in kindness, in serving others, and in being grateful for the simple gifts of life. Her story teaches us a timeless lesson. Real beauty isn't something you can wear, it's something you are. It's the kindness in your heart, the humility in your spirit, and the love you share with the world. That is the kind of beauty that never fades. It's the kind that can truly make your soul dance with joy.